G'day guys, and welcome to today's video. Now today's discussion is going to be a little bit different than what we've been looking at lately, because it's more of an esoteric, mystical side of things, because today we're focusing on the unseen parts of ourselves, okay? So the things that are beyond our physical body and our physical senses. I just want to ask you a simple question. Have you ever stopped to consider that the physical body, so the visible, tangible body that we walk around in all day and that we interact with and look at in the mirror, only makes up a tiny fragment of our entire being, of who we truly are? Some even estimate it to be only 1% of our true self, of ourself, is the physical, tangible body. That means 99% of what we are, our being, is not the physical, tangible self. 99%. That's a lot. And so that's what we're going to be looking at in today's video. Okay? It's about understanding that 99%, so everything from our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our intuitions, our unconscious, our consciousness, is where the real essence of who we are actually lies. And the physical body that we inhabit is only just the tip of the iceberg. Let's look at why focusing on that 99%, our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, our inner world, can actually lead to profound changes in our lives. And let's also explore how we can harness the power of our mind and our consciousness to transform not just our perceptions, but our reality also. So now that we've opened the door to this intriguing idea, and hopefully your curiosity has piqued a little bit, let's now dive in a little bit deeper. So it all begins with understanding the 99%. Okay, so the part that we're talking about is the unseen part. So that is the realm of your mind and your consciousness. So your mind and your consciousness is where your thoughts, your emotions, and your beliefs reside. Now these are things that you cannot physically touch, see, or anything like that. So this is why we call it the 99% that is unseen. Think about it this way. Everything that we experience through our senses, so everything that we see, touch, taste, hear, or anything like that, is actually processed through the mind. So the eyes and the ears are just the beginning. All they really do is collect the information. But it's our brain, our consciousness, that actually processes that data and then creates the reality or the world that we live in. So for example, with your eyes, all they really are is kind of like lenses that let in light. Okay? And then when that light hits the back of our retinas, it sends electrical signals into the brain, which then does its magic and turns that into the visual images that we see. Same with the ear. All the ear does is pick up on differences in air pressure around you. And then that air pressure travels through the ear canal, hits the eardrum, which then turns it again into electrical signal, and then the brain just creates sound out of that. So it's quite crazy when you think of it that way. Everything that you see, hear, feel, taste, or touch is actually happening within your mind. It's not physically actually happening to you. And if we take it a step further, science also tells us that atoms can't touch each other. And so if everything is made out of atoms, when you touch the table, you're not actually feeling the table. Okay, because it can't actually touch the table. It's your brain taking that information on the skin of whatever's happening at the atomic level, I have no idea, but it's sending those electrical signals through your nervous system, which then the brain just does its magic again and processes that information into the sense of touch and feeling. So it's quite crazy when you think of it that way, that pretty much everything that happens to you happens within your mind and within your consciousness. For a good example of this, look at someone like Wim Hof, the Iceman, who through mastering his inner world, through his breath, his exposure to cold and essentially cultivating that power in his mind, he's able to do things that seem superhuman, especially in the cold, like, being able to submerge in the cold, climbing mountains in just his shorts when it's freezing cold. Or another great example is that of the Tibetan monks. I remember watching this documentary on National Geographic, I think it was, which just blew my mind. So they had these monks and they were out in the Himalayas, in Tibet, and it's quite cold there, very cold in fact. And what they were doing was these monks, they would get into this meditative state, and then someone would place a wet blanket on top of them. Now remember, their environment is like freezing cold. So having a wet blanket or a wet robe put on you is going to be quite cold. But these monks, they were able to, because of the power of their mind, they were actually able to raise their body temperature and raise the temperature of their skin. And you could actually see the steam coming off the monk and coming off the cloth that they put on it. And by the end of the session, the cloth was actually dried by the monk's body heat. And he did this just by visualizing it and creating that heat within his mind. So again, this really goes to show the power of our mind, and that 99% that we can't actually see, touch, feel, or that is tangible. It shows that that's where all of our power lies, in that 99%, and which is why we should really start taking much more notice of it. And even athletes talk about how they visualize things happening before it actually happens. Or they talk about how it's more of a mental game than a physical game. I've heard of a lot of fighters actually say that fighting is more mental than it is physical. And that's quite understandable. You're going into battle. You know that you're going to get hurt. You know the other person's going to try and hurt you. But we use the power of the mind, the power of our will and our visualization and our consciousness to then outwit that fear, and to overcome these seemingly insurmountable obstacles. So it all happens within the theater of the mind and the theater of our consciousness. And again, this is why we should spend a lot of time focusing on that 99% as opposed to the 1%. However, in our daily lives, we tend to focus predominantly on the physical. Our appearance, our possessions, the things we can actually touch, see, interact with, and that kind of thing. Now, these aren't bad per se, and they aren't unimportant. So they are still important, but we must realize that they only make up a fraction of our potential. And imagine what we could achieve or what we could develop if we devoted more time to focusing on that 99%, our consciousness, our mind, our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs. Because these are what's actually going to change the physical. They'll change your appearance and the possessions you have. So we need to look at the cause, not the effect, or at least the root of the cause, and that's the 99%. This is where true transformation takes place, in the 99%. Because when we nurture our thoughts, when we pay attention to our emotions, and when we truly believe the power of our consciousness, we start to kind of find or unlock these abilities that we never knew we even had. So we can find peace amidst chaos. We can find strength in adversity, and we can just find joy in the simple pleasures of life, or the simple things. Another example of the power of the 99%, which is quite grim and quite heartbreaking, is that of the monk who set himself on fire to protest the way Buddhists were treated in southern Vietnam during the Vietnam War. So the backstory of it is that during that time, the government that was in power in southern Vietnam was like Catholic, I'm pretty sure, or Christian or something like that. But they weren't allowing Buddhists to practice Buddhism. And these Buddhists, they thought that everyone should be able to practice however they believe, and nothing was being done about it. So this brave Buddhist monk decided to give his life for the cause. And the way he decided to do it was quite extreme. And that was on purpose, because he wanted the world to know what was happening. So this monk sat down, prayed, did his thing, got into the state of mind where he accepted his fate. And then some of his other Buddhist friends poured gasoline on top of him, and then he just lit a match. And the whole time that he was burning, he never once screamed, he never once showed any pain or anything like that. People say he didn't even move. Now imagine if he was focused on the 1%, his physical body that was burning to death. There's no way he could have done what he did with that grace if he focused on that 1%. Okay, he was a Buddhist monk who understood the power of the mind, to understand the power of your emotions, your thoughts, and your belief in the consciousness, in the creative power of your consciousness. And in that, he was able to, again, just do one of the most heroic, craziest kind of things that anyone could do, and set themselves on fire for a cause bigger than himself. So again, that just goes to show the true power of this 99% that we all have within us. You don't need to be a Buddhist monk to, be able to do these crazy feats, but you just have to shift your mindset and understand that the 99% is where the power truly lies. So what are some ways that you can start focusing on your inner world, that 99%? Well, one thing you can do is start practicing mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is all about being right here, right now, in the moment. So, for example, if you're eating, be there eating, experience all the flavors. Really, don't be on your phone, don't be watching YouTube, don't be distracting yourselves. Sit with your food. Okay. Same as if you're like waiting in line at the grocery store. Try just waiting there. Okay. Don't distract yourself. Be mindful. And if you're new to this, look up something like the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, or anything by Thich Nhat Hanh. These two great teachers, they have a really great way of describing mindfulness and easy ways to apply it in your own life. Also, engage in positive thinking. Okay, remember, you're in charge of your inner world. You're in charge of what your mind actually starts to perceive. And so if you keep a positive attitude, an optimistic attitude, you're going to just start creating more positivity and optimism in your own life. Okay. And then also practice meditation. Meditation is possibly the greatest thing that I've ever come across. So meditation doesn't need to be anything kind of extravagant or serious. You can literally just sit, listen to some calming sounds. I love listening to the waves crash on the shore. And just let your mind wander. Try not to hold on to any of your thoughts and just let it go blank. Or you could do guided meditations. This is another favorite of mine. There's tons and tons on YouTube. So you can put on one of these and someone will actually guide you through the meditation. Now, if you're new to meditation, guided meditations can be a really great way to get started, because it's not about clearing your mind and letting your thoughts go, but it's about following that journey and allowing your mind to wander. So those are a few things that you can do to actually start shifting away from just the physical 1% of your tangible body, and to start exploring that 99% where your latent powers reside. Now, as we come to an end of today's video and today's journey, guys, let's just take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. So we looked at how the physical body, our tangible body that we interact with, is just a tiny part of ourselves, of our true selves. And the vast majority of who we are, which is made up of our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, our consciousness, remains in the unseen yet immensely powerful 99% of our true self. Okay, so we're the combination of both, but the physical is a very, very small part compared to the unseen or the unphysical. We also discussed how people like Wim Hof and the Buddhist monks are able to do these seemingly superhuman and impossible feats because they have cultivated this really strong inner self, the 99%. That's where they put most of their focus and most of their exploration. And that's why they're able to have such immense control over the 1%, the physical being. Then we also discussed how athletes pretty much say the same thing, that most of their work is a mental game. Okay, It's about mastering their inner self, which then allows them to perform their best on the actual court or the field or whatever sport they are in. But it all starts in the mind. It's a mental game before it's a physical game. And so now it's your turn. I encourage you to really start to explore your inner world. Take a stock of your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your beliefs. Start to look at the immense power that your consciousness and your thoughts actually have. Okay? Think about everything that you've done in your life started out as a thought. And your thoughts are based on your beliefs. So when you start to go in and you examine these beliefs and these thoughts you have, if there's stuff there that you don't like, you can remove it and add beliefs and thoughts that are actually good for you and will propel you further on in life. But it all starts with that 99%. So practice mindfulness, okay? Practice positive thinking and start a little meditation practice, and I guarantee you will just see the magic that comes from it, and that will propel you to keep going and keep exploring this 99%. And yeah, what you'll start to notice is that you have the power to change your perception, your reality, and your life once you start to realize the power of that 99% that is intangible, that's happening within your mind and your consciousness. So I applaud you again to really, really start to explore it and just see the power that is actually within you. And that's going to do it for today's video, guys. So I would love to hear your thoughts and your experiences on this topic. Have you already started to explore and discover that 99%? Or what are you going to do moving forward to really start to get in tune with that 99% of your true self? So leave a comment below with anything you'd like to discuss. Let's keep this discussion going on. And remember, you never know who your experiences or your ideas are actually going to help. So if you have anything to leave, just leave a comment below. I love reading them all. So thanks for sticking all the way to the end, guys. If you found this video useful or helpful in any way, please give it a thumbs up, a like, and share it with anybody who you think might also benefit from it. Remember, let's try be like the ripple effect and help as many people as possible. Also, please feel free to subscribe to the video if you enjoyed this content and want to see more videos like this. But until next time, guys, I'll leave you as I always do and encourage you to make your life extraordinary. You hold the power to create the life of your dreams. And until next time, take care of yourselves